Monotonous ranks of alien conifers, destroying valuable wildlife habitat, replacing open wilderness, creating instead a barren, lifeless place. These attitudes make commercial foresting of upland Britain a controversial issue. Sometimes it's a controversy born of prejudice, of resistance to change. There is life here, predators and their prey. But they're secretive, and in such huge forests, it's easy for them to avoid being detected. Foxes can kill fawns. They're also a threat to capercaillie and their chicks. The goldcrest is too small to interest a fox, but it too has enemies. Stoats and squirrels raid the nests of small birds, but keep a nervous eye on the menacing shadows above. At any moment, the most striking creature in the forest, a secretive, predatory bird, spirit-like in its elusive presence, may swoop down with blinding speed, ending life in an instant. The goshawk is the world's largest true hawk. It stands over 2 feet high with a wingspan of nearly 4 feet. It's an impressive, striking hunter of the northern forests of Europe, Russia, and North America. Yet in England they are so rare, this forest cannot be named. The goshawk is a supreme winged predator, but it has no defense against unscrupulous egg collectors and poachers. Even the presence of a cameraman can cause these shy birds to abandon their nest. To create minimum disturbance, the filming towers were built well before the breeding season. When the birds returned the following spring to their old nest, they did not seem to notice the camera blind 50 feet above the ground. Watching the male add sticks to the bulky nest is comparatively easy, but it took 107 hours of waiting to catch the female plucking a pigeon. Last year, this pair raised 3 youngsters. In these vast man-made forests, the birds are difficult to find. To them, this seemingly barren wilderness offers security where they're free from disturbance. In the past, goshawks were hunted down because they occasionally attack game birds. But they also kill large numbers of pigeons, rabbits, magpies, and crows. By helping to rid farmers and foresters of these pests, they probably do more good than harm. This bird of prey hunts by using a combination of surprise and tremendous speed. crushing grip of needle-sharp talons ensures the final struggle is brief. Goshawks hunt to survive. As a native species, they belong here. Pheasants are an introduced foreign bird raised for sport. Many predators regard them as a welcome bonus, but even for this tenacious hunter, fearless in its pursuit of prey, they are difficult to catch. They were once common in Britain, but the widespread clearance of native forests, followed by relentless persecution, led to their extinction by the end of the last century. In the 1960s and 70s, goshawks from Scandinavia were reintroduced by falconers to widely scattered parts of Britain. These shy pioneers bred successfully, and some populations are beginning to expand in the new man-made forests. The vast plantations are very different to the old native woodlands, but they do provide a home for a rich variety of wildlife. Many old-growth forests are being cut down. The blocks of fir trees are being opened up and replaced with a patchwork of different age trees. Birch, oak, as well as native larch and Scots pine are now planted among the more commercially valuable Sitka spruce. All these changes benefit wildlife. Every 2 to 4 years, Sitka spruce trees produce a bumper crop of cones, attracting vast numbers of seed-eating birds. Huge flocks of hungry crossbills arrive from as far away as Russia. They use their specially adapted beaks to pry open the cones and extract the seeds. Many other birds benefit from the bonanza, including coal tits and siskins. Crossbills and siskins are summer visitors and may sometimes outnumber the resident tits, chaffinches, and goldcrests. Food may be abundant in modern forests, but the supply of nest sites for hole dwellers is often limited. Nest boxes provide much-needed homes for all sorts of animals. Red squirrels are rare in Britain. Surprisingly, they flourish in Sitka spruce forests, which are now one of their last strongholds. The lack of broadleaf trees among so many conifers may exclude the larger gray squirrels. The reds can benefit from the seed crop with little competition. When the spruce crop is low, red squirrels can usually find cones from other species of trees to keep them going. Winter is a tough time for wildlife, but the snow can be deceptive. During good cone years, the seed harvest can last 6 months. Sheltered by the thick canopy and encouraged by so much food, the crossbills sometimes start to breed in autumn, raising their young during the winter. When the larch, Norway spruce, and Scots pine cones all mature immediately after the Sitka harvest, the seed eaters have more than enough to eat. In most years, the crossbills breed in spring. Male and female goshawks cavort above their chosen nest site, reasserting last year's bonds with spectacular aerobatics. Pairs tend to breed in the same area year after year. Mature spruce trees provide suitable nest sites, but goshawks prefer larches. Their brittle twigs are easier to break to make large, secure nests. The male does most of the building. He also has to hunt and defend the territory. The female is now developing eggs and needs all the food she can get. As she gains weight, she finds it more and more difficult to hunt. Finally, she gives up and relies on her partner to bring her prey. The male spreads his white tail coverts as a courtship display. They will soon mate. Red squirrels, distracted by their own courtship rituals, are vulnerable to attack. So too are ground nesting birds. The woodcock sits tight and relies on superb camouflage to avoid detection. This female's chicks are only minutes old and can already walk. She broods them until the last egg has hatched and all her young have dried out. Then she will shepherd them away from the nest, as the broken eggshells and smell of so many chicks could attract the attention of predators. Confined to the nest by her precious clutch of eggs, The female goshawk takes advantage of her enforced inactivity to molt and grow new feathers. The old ones make nest lining material for wrens. When evening falls, the night hunters emerge from their hideouts deep in the forest. Most plantations have a thriving population of badgers. The steep, well-drained banks beneath the trees make good den sites. The badger is the most powerful predator here. They can kill rabbits and pheasants, but they feed mainly on beetles and worms among the fallen pine needles and in the grassy rides at the edge of the plantation. In forest glades, they raid field vole nests. Mice and voles are the favorite prey of another nocturnal hunter, the tawny owl.
It's very deep. Ah, it's super steep.
Scientists are measuring the owl's breeding success. They want to find out how birds of prey adapt to changes in forest management. To identify individuals, the birds are ringed. At the same time, they're weighed and measured. The results will help foresters manage man-made forests to encourage wildlife.
I'll give you the ring number first. It's GK67853.
Right, got that.
She just replaced 2 feathers, P4 and 5. And it's exactly the same in the left wing. Right, she's 268 wing length flat and 258 wing length bowed.
Got that.
The tawny owl's breeding success depends on the availability of food. Their prey is more abundant in newly planted forests, so by providing a patchwork of young and old trees, the numbers of owlets which fledge can be increased. At night, acute hearing is more valuable than good eyesight. Tawny owls have soft flight feathers and fly on silent wings. In late April, as day dawns, the forest echoes with the extraordinary sounds of the rare capercaillie. This turkey-sized grouse is native to ancient pine forests, but it's equally at home in modern spruce plantations. The male capper is an impressive bird. On their traditional display grounds, they compete with each other. This is a competitive arena. Each male must defend his particular stamping ground against rivals, and at the same time attract as many females as possible. Like the goshawk, Scottish cappers were hunted to extinction, but in 1837 they were successfully reintroduced. Now they are in trouble again, and their numbers declining. Cappers are one of Britain's largest birds. Goshawks occasionally kill them, even the massive males. It's a measure of their power and strength. But this magnificent predator is not responsible for the capper's demise. It's still too rare to have any significant effect on the populations of its prey. Heavy rain at hatching time is a serious threat to capercaillie chicks. If their feathers get wet, they can succumb to hypothermia, but the main cause of their decline is probably loss of old forest habitat. To protect goshawks from some unforeseen disaster, research started in the early 70s continues today. Each bird can be identified by a molted flight feather. The pattern, color, and length of these feathers are as unique to goshawks as fingerprints are to people.
Right, I'll just have a check in the book to see whether it's the same female or not. I hope it is.
This feather confirms that the female has bred successfully for the last 7 years and raised 20 young. The presence of top predators, like the goshawk, is evidence of a flourishing forest. Far from being lifeless stands of trees, these plantations can, if properly managed, provide a home for wildlife as well as wood for people. Timber production was once all that concerned plantation owners. Now the management objectives are much wider and include nature conservation. The reintroduction of the once extinct goshawk has been a great success. There's now a healthy breeding population in Britain. Perhaps birds of prey in America can benefit from a similar program. Young chicks need feeding regularly, And with the female on guard at the nest, it's the male's duty to bring home food. Young wood pigeon are a favorite prey. Pigeons are pests, so the hawks are doing the farmers a favor. The female is considerably larger than the male and dominates the nest. She tears off small strips of meat. For such a powerful bird, she feeds the chicks with surprising gentleness. Not long ago, all the mature trees in a commercial plantation were felled for timber extraction. Now those of specific value to wildlife are being left to grow on. Sitka spruce is an excellent commercial tree, producing good pulp and building timber. It grows fast on marginal land and in a hostile, unyielding climate. The wet uplands of Britain provide some of the best conditions for tree growing in Europe. But some areas are also vitally important for wetland plants and animals. Forestry is big business. Britain's wood imports are still high, and the country's forest cover is the third lowest in Europe. Planted in the wrong place, conifers destroy valuable wildlife habitat. Planted in the right place, they provide a haven for many forest species, as well as a valuable timber crop. Unlike oil and coal, it's also one that is endlessly renewable. With the ongoing destruction of the world's tropical rainforests, trees will be increasingly in demand. Farmers are being encouraged to plant less grain and other overproduced crops and more trees. Perhaps this will help end the conflict between foresters and conservationists. More sensitive forest management is creating important space for wildlife. Newly planted and restocked areas provide the grassy vegetation loved by field voles. The vole populations fluctuate on a 3 to 4 year cycle. Some hunters adapt to exploit these high numbers, especially the short-eared owl. These owls move to areas where field voles are plentiful. When vole numbers are high, they can raise 6 or 7 chicks. If the vole population crashes, and the adults are unable to find alternative food, the youngest owlets may die. Goshawks prefer larger prey. Rabbits are easy targets and provide much-needed food for the goshawk chicks. The pair's 4 chicks are now 2.5 weeks old, and their appetites are insatiable. One chick is a runt, but all the chicks are growing feathers rapidly, and they should now survive anything the weather throws at them. The climate is certainly hostile at times, even in summer. Rain is the lifeblood of growing trees. In much of northern Europe, this vital resource now carries industrial pollution. These pollutants can become concentrated in forest streams. Water quality can be improved by planting small groups of broadleaf trees, such as oak, rowan, and birch. The leaf litter of birches is alkaline and helps reduce the acidity created by man's industrial activity. When the acidity levels return to normal, aquatic insects multiply and insect-eating birds flourish. Gray wagtails are returning to once barren streams. So is the dipper. This bird only lives in clean, fast-flowing water. Its presence is a good sign. Both species nest in streamside banks. The dipper's young have already fledged. Their parents feed the hungry brood with aquatic larvae gathered from below the surface. The stream sides and forest edges are often the richest places for wildlife, so they're good places for forest hawks. Sparrowhawks are like miniature goshawks. They are agile hunters, and the male provides all the food for the growing young. A good spruce cone crop provides a bonanza of seed-eating crossbills and siskins, making life easy for bird-eating sparrowhawks. The female is considerably larger than the male. She is very protective of her chicks. To avoid the possibility of upsetting her at the nest, her mate calls her to his plucking post to collect food. Size difference reduces competition between the sexes. While the male takes mainly small birds, the female hunts larger prey, like thrushes and even wood pigeons. Pigeons are plentiful, but not easy. Even the goshawk can seldom catch them in a straight chase. The element of surprise, essential. Goshawks use the cover at the forest edge, then rely on sheer speed, agility, and power. The forest edge is a favorite haunt for a more familiar rabbit hunter. Foxes are completely at home in conifer plantations. The large areas of cover provide security and ample food for cubs. But an inquisitive adult roe deer is too big for them to tackle. To the farmer, the fox can be an enemy, but to the forester, it is a friend. They prey on field voles and gray squirrels, both of which cause damage by gnawing the bark of young trees. Shooting foxes has little effect on their numbers in the forest. Like the short-eared owls, their breeding success depends largely on the periodic crashes in field vole populations. After 3.5 weeks, it's clear the goshawk chicks are getting plenty to eat. Fighting over food ensures the survival of the fittest. The adults are bringing in a succession of crows, magpies, and jays. All these birds are notorious killers of nestlings. The more the goshawks catch, the more chicks birds like siskins and crossbills will raise. The goshawk helps maintain a healthy balance between the predators and their prey. It's a different story for the roe deer. These deer breed well in plantations, but they strip the bark off broadleaf trees, causing serious damage. Wolf and lynx, the deer's natural predators, were wiped out long ago. Now forest rangers have to control their numbers. Most so-called pest species are left to find a natural balance within the forest. A healthy predator population is clearly the best way to achieve this and ensures lasting natural diversity. After more than 5 weeks in the nest, the young goshawks have scrambled out, eager to be first to the food. To encourage their chicks to fly, their parents no longer feed them in the nest. As they compete for their fair share, they exercise their wings, legs, and claws. They must grow strong if they're to become champion hunters of the forest. Foxes are capable predators, but they're scavengers too. They regularly patrol the plucking posts around goshawk nests. Taking advantage of all opportunities is a key to the success of any predator. Goshawks are exploiting man-made forests and doing well. But despite legal protection, these birds of prey are still persecuted. The main problems arise in late summer, when young goshawks leave their nest sites to explore the surrounding woodlands and fields. Away from the protection of the forest, they may come into conflict with sportsmen. Young pheasants in release pens are easy and tempting targets for hungry goshawks. If they keep returning, the hunter becomes the hunted. The goshawk is one of the few birds to have been successfully reintroduced, but illegal killing could drive it out again. In countries like Sweden, where goshawks are widespread, problem birds are trapped alive and released away from pheasant pens. In areas where other prey is common, they have little impact on wild game stocks. Sportsmen and conservationists can work together to achieve a common aim. Both groups want to maintain rich wildlife habitats. Here in the conifer plantations, wildlife has been successfully integrated with forestry. It's a partnership that works, a model for other parts of the world. The stillness in the shadows is deceptive. In these new forests, a dynamic, constantly changing environment is making a dramatic comeback. And with it, the goshawk returns to reclaim its ancient role as the phantom of the forest.